and it'll be fine for the great for the Chinese, fine for the Europeans, bad for Tesla, bad for America, and that's basically where stuff's going. America right now, and Donald Trump is the most hated man in the world, and particularly in Europe and Canada. Let's not forget Canada. They don't like Trump either. And there is an ongoing boycott of everything American in Western Europe. I see it every time I go there. It's like nobody buys American products. I don't buy American products for the same reason. He needs to be punished, and if that's a way to punish him, so be it.
I think Canada also is boycotting America.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My wife was just at the grocery store picking up some pop, and we get a no-name pop now, and it's hard to find.
Yeah.
Coke's there all over the place, Pepsi's there all over the place. The no-name stuff that's produced here in Canada, that flies off the shelves. So that's just a small indication.
Yeah, and it's true, and there is a campaign. Anyway, we are heavily into the closing comments, pearls of wisdom part of the show, so I want to make sure we get to everybody. And let's see. Oh, it's the great and powerful Reverend Scott. It's your turn to do closing comments, pearls of wisdom.
Thank you. Great to see everybody, and great to see, of course, the great Ben Mendelsohn. And when my screenplay is sold, which is going to be The Diplomat's Spouse, about his life as a secret agent, he's going to get all of the royalty. It's going to be it's going to be either a movie or a serial drama. I'm not sure which yet.
You're working on.
As we talk about the future of the Democratic Party, what I constantly am going back to is Ezra Klein's conversation with Gary Gerstle. Gerstle wrote a book called The Rise and Fall of the Neoliberal Order, and he introduced Klein in that discussion to the concept of political orders, right? And you're in an order, right, when your opponents adopt your strategies, right? So he has two. I mean, Gerstle thinks there's two in the 20th century. There's FDR's, New Deal liberalism. And what does Eisenhower do? Does he come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to undo this and roll it"? No, he expands the government, right? He as a Republican, he builds the middle class. He through things like the GI Bill and through things like the interstate highway system. He is in the shadow of FDR, even though he's a Republican. And the second one is the neoliberal order, which comes in the 70s, right? And this is it's seen as Reaganism. And what do the Democrats do? They imitate it, right? When Bill Clinton comes in, the great Democratic, what does he do? He said something Reagan-esque, right? The era of big government is over, right? He collaborates with Gingrich and that stuff, right? Because the order of the day is neoliberalism, right? And so the question is that order collapsing, right? Which I think it probably, and his Gerstle's argument is it's coming to an end. It's teetering at the financial crisis, right? And along with skepticism with things like Iraq, on international alliances and things like that, Trump and right-wing populism is a response. I don't know if it'll be the victorious response, but it's the response, right? And I think what we're doing very often, what Kamala Harris did, was double down on the old order, right? Double down on a defense of democratic neoliberalism in the face of a populist challenge, which I think is a losing strategy. Now, I think, look, I don't like Mamdani's anti-Semitism, but I think Mamdani might be the face in many other ways of a left-wing populist response, right? What like something that would not be the sort of business as usual neoliberalism. And I think, guys, we got to look at people like that. I mean, that I think that sort of populist left-wing response. And again, some people, it might be too left-wing for some people when you're talking about government grocery stores and stuff. But I do think Mamdani's got it, right? I mean, he's got his finger on the pulse when people feel like the system's not working for them, especially in New York, where they feel like it's unaffordable and just oppressive in just the way things are outpriced for the average New Yorker. That's a guy to pay attention to, and I think that's the future of trying to think through what does it look like to sort of part with neoliberalism. And again, another option is Ezra Klein's abundance agenda, right? I mean, there's another viable picture of a way to go that transcends sort of the neoliberal take, which again, I think we doubled down on in the last election, and it wasn't helpful. Thanks, everybody. Great to see you.
Thank you, Reverend Scott. That was great. A lot of wisdom there. All right. Oh my goodness. I'm looking at our stage here, and it just occurred to me that Lou is here. Oh my goodness, Lou. We haven't heard from you in such a long time. I'm gonna give you some space to get us caught up. First of all, where are you?
Long time no Lou.
No Lou.
I was just listening for a long time, but it was okay because indeed I haven't been here for a very long time, so it was good to listen to you guys and the different opinions. I agree and disagree, and catching up a little bit with the American saga. Where am I? Italy?
Okay.
Where I will go soon. Sicily to have a djembe workshop with the biggest maestro in Guinea. So it's gonna be a big thing. Yes, a very big thing.
Sounds exciting.
Yes, then I will go to Holland for work, and after that I will go to Capo Verde again, and I'm back since 2 weeks from Capo Verde.
Did you end up buying a property in Capo Verde?
Unfortunately not, but I have people now there, so they're looking for me. And
Okay.
the prices went up. They really, really went up. So if you, because I know you have money, you have money, I strongly suggest you invest in Capo Verde. And they expect that even Boa Vista is going up, so you can buy property there, and just let the money come without doing anything, basically. Really, because all these low-cost airlines are going to fly to Cape Verde now, which means there will be competition. More people will come, so it will be crazy. And on one hand is good, of course, that you get more tourists. On the other hand, it's not good for the island because it will miss that the charm that Capo Verde has, that is a little bit secluded, touristic, nice, but not too much, And so
It is one place that, while we're here in West Africa, I wish we would have gone. I don't know.
You didn't move, you still can go.
I know.
You're still alive.
I'm still there. We can still do it.
Don't postpone it, or you get maybe too old and then you don't do it anymore,
We can still do it. Well, we can do it from Porto. So that's so bad.
Yeah, exactly, and it's very cheap from Porto. Very, very cheap to go there. So
Yeah, those Portuguese-speaking countries do support each other. So
yeah, but as for the political part, I haven't been following that much. Only the European part a bit. So we are counting back with a huge tariff counterback. I don't know how to call it, of 72 million. On certain products. I think this will have an impact on Americans, on American middle class. And maybe first we will be the most impacted, we as Europe, but eventually it will be American. And I don't know who is advising this guy, Trump, because these tariffs are gonna come back and hit you really hard.
absolutely.
Yes.
Hey, Europe does not need America. They just don't.
Exactly.
Everything that's American can be replaced by Chinese. Everything.
Yes, and we are already doing that, started to do that.
And you know who else gets a hand on this is Brazil. There's a lot of stuff Brazil.
Yeah, correct. The only thing I'm not so happy about is that the China thing, because China is very dangerous. It's doing, it seems like innocuous, but it's not.
Yeah.
It will become the most.
There's a little bit of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, sort of.
Well, more enemy is really an enemy. You have to compare it with Russia. Only Russia is clear in its aggression. It's clear in its technique of spying and of compromising data and things like that. China, it does it better in a more subtle way, which
They're
is
much
more
more
dangerous.
civilized.
It's more dangerous, but it's more dangerous. On the long run, it's more dangerous. China is something that we have to watch very good. And yeah, for Putin, I don't know what to say. Of course, it all depends what that orange guy is gonna do, because one day he loves Putin, the other day he doesn't like Putin, and yeah,
Well, you think about it, we have three simultaneous, horrible, awful, terrible people. We have Putin, Netanyahu, and Trump. And just think, if the three of them all three of them were in jail, how much better the world would be right now.
Yes, but it's wishful thinking that will never happen. So you have to be realistic and work with what you have. Yeah, there is no way that Putin is going to be put to jail. There is no way that Netanyahu is going to be put to jail. There's no way in heaven and
But just imagine all the damage those three individuals have done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all this triangle is all perfectly built in years and years, because it's very silly to think that this has happened because of what Trump came to power and whatever. Netanyahu was preparing this for a very long time. Putin has been preparing this for 30 years or longer, So it's a bit naive when you think like, oh yes, but because now and that's what happened in... No. This is just reasons to give them power, to give them things that happen that gives them the reason to do what they were already planning to do for a long time. Yeah, and I am actually worried because for us, what is important, okay, the terrorists, we can go around it. We do have, what you said, we do have everything to sustain ourselves. We just are a chaos. The European Union is a chaos. He really has to do something. I don't know if you listen to Macron speech. I think that was very good. I'm not a big fan of Macron, never been, but in this case, yes. In this case, I think Europe needs a kind of a leader, somebody that stands out, and then it's going to be, on the front line.
I agree.
It's like, listen, we
I think
can
he's
do
been
it.
stepping up and filling the back.
It's been stepping up for different reasons. Of course, there's going to be election and whatever, so different reasons. He is maybe aiming to get a higher rank or whatever, but it's correct. It's what we need, and France is strong. It's very strong.
You're right.
Yeah.
We need to identify people who are charismatic and who are good communicators. And we talked a little bit about that in the United States. I've been very impressed with John Ossoff, and he's running for re-election, and you don't hear that much about him because he's a very. I think he's only in his first term. And this is his first true re-election. I know that he was like, I think he had, but he's really come on. I don't know if you've seen him speak, but he's really spot on. And I really like Gavin. I think Gavin is stepping up and really communicating well and strongly, and so has Chris Murphy. So we do have some stars, and we should really be utilizing them. Anyway, thank you so much, Lou. Did you want to land on that?
No, just to land on that. It's just maybe this is what I always said is the wake-up call for Europe. I'm only worried about Meloni because, as usual, she is waiting, and she wants to be the Trump dog, and she's like a very cautious in what she says and does, and we not act too hard on the tariff, we don't think careful and things like that. She's playing the field as usual, and you know how it is.
Well, she's quite the politician.
She is. I always say that she's a very smart politician. I never said that she's not a smart politician. She's one of the smartest that Italy has for a very long time.
And you know what? The thing is, everybody had such low expectations for her that just because she is much better than we thought, she's managed to, keep everybody at bay.
No. But when I mean a good politician, I mean what a politician usually does, and that is for me a bad thing. And what it means is like trying to be manipulative and trying to keep the feet in different pair of shoes, but in the end doing actually nothing or make it worse for his own country. And that is, if he's doing that perfectly, I'm telling you, perfectly. So that means she's bad as the prime minister for Italy. Italy, and it's also, and Russia doesn't even have to fight like a different war or whatever, or try to do propaganda in Italy. Italy is already Russian satellite, has been for a long time. They don't need to do anything in Italy because they will always defend Russia, no matter what. And this is really bad. I cannot comprehend it because when I go to Holland, it's the other way around. And the last thing I want to tell you, and I think you guys are aware of this because of the Europe University, and I professor in your university, and what's happening in the university because of the orange guy. They want to come to Europe, and they've been invited from a lot of European countries, the higher yes. Do you know? So half of Europe is inviting them. You know the only country that didn't invite anybody? That's Italy.
Give up, Italy?
Italy, of course. So there you go.
Which is so sad because you're such great academics.
It's sad because Italy is plunging back into the Middle Ages. Yeah. Anyway, that was
your voice. You need to play.
Yeah, I would try to be a little bit, to come here a little bit more often, but if I'm not here, it's a really long clubhouse. It just cut off and traveling and whatever is with my thing.
All right, thanks, Luke.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we are definitely at the top of the hour. So what I'm going to do is sort of see who wants to do a closing comment, pearls of wisdom, and we'll sort of do it popcorn. Anybody want to go first? David, did you have any closing comment, pearls of wisdom? Oh, Moose, why don't you go, Moose?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll keep it short. It's I don't know if it's pearls of wisdom or just more awareness, but I just saw a headline and skimmed through the article. A 37-year-old professor in Hemaria, California, was abducted by ICE for having the audacity to protest. It was a cannabis raid, a cannabis farm raid, and they were using. The ICE agents were using tear gas, and this professor had, one of the tear gas canisters landed near a protester in a wheelchair. And so this professor had the audacity to try to run to the aid of this handicapped protester, and at that point he was abducted. The ICE agents were masked, they threw him in an unmarked vehicle, and he's still missing.
That is so fucked up. That's crazy. Well, thanks for telling. I did hear a little bit about that. That's outrageous. Anyway, let's go to Andrew. Did you have any closing comment, pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, quickly. I read an article this morning. It was about ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot had gone up against Atari 2600 replica chess, and both of them failed miserably. Can't do chess, and so then they went up against Gemini, and Gemini asked the person, was there anything? Well, first it said, "I'll kill you, I'll kill it."
Well, yeah,
because
they learned that from Rob.
Multimodal LLM or whatever. And then it asked, "Is there anything that you found really significant in your other two competitions?" And the guy responded, "Yeah, both of them said they'd kill it." And then Gemini said, "Yes, you're right. I won't be able to beat Atari 2600." So it declined to play. So there you go.
Wow, Atari 2600, a blast from the past. Thank you, Andrew. All right, let's go closing comment. Ken, do you have a closing comment?
Well, yeah, I think what you guys talked about this because it's probably the number one issue that's being spoken about, at least in the United States today on domestic politics, is the Supreme Court ruling regarding allowing Trump to fire all these employees, particularly in the Department of Education. So what really is interesting about this is that the Department of Education, which the Republican president wanted to dismantle, not just Trump, which is, for the people who don't know, it's only existed since the Carter administration. It used to,
I think wasn't it started during Nixon? Nixon started.
no, it was under Carter. It was under Carter.
Okay.
It was, and to be very blunt about it, it was Jimmy Carter's payoff to the NEA. That's what that was. Okay, but it used to be part of something called HEW, which was Health, Education, and Welfare. Most of HEW is now HHS, so now education's separate, right? So he's not technically allowed to actually close down the department because it was created by Congress. So he didn't do that. Okay, they're going to leave us. There's a Secretary of Education, Lyndon McMahon. There's a skeleton staff there. But there is no, in the congressional authorization, it never said how many employees do you have to have, okay? Or do you have to actually service student loans, or could you move the servicing of student loans to the Small Business Administration, which Lyndon McMahon actually used to run under Trump's first term? And that's what they're doing, okay? And so, it's something like, we don't know what the future is going to be, but like post-Trump, I think it's something, if we ever get back to some normalcy, Congress is now going to need to think about. If a president could effectively dismantle an executive agency created by Congress by firing 90% of its employees, okay, and reallocating some to other whatever. Does Congress need, when they created a department, to put in more stipulations about how it gets funded, and what could be cut and what can't be cut, without their permission? Because he's essentially dismantled the Department of Education without actually legally dismantling it. And then that was actually the point of Sotomayor's dissent, okay, in the Supreme Court, okay? So, and that was like one of the bigger stories that was circulating in U.S. media today, and that's, I did have a question though. I think it was Stephanie mentioned Italy's relation with Russia. Italy is like themselves. Forget about what NATO's doing as its entity. But Italy's a member of NATO. Italy is actually selling armaments to Ukraine. So how favorable are they to Russia if they're arming Ukraine? I don't understand that.
It's truly confusing because there's so many mixed interests. Because clearly Meloni had been getting closer to Putin, and that was one of the things that was scary. But at the same time, she's threading the needle. She's trying to make nice to NATO by pretending like she cares about Ukraine. So she's doing that, like she's doing both things at the same time. So it's like Lou said, it's disingenuous. But anyway, thanks, Ken. All right, we're almost out of here. Let's go to David, and then anybody else. Oh, I want to go to Rick and then Denise. So David first, then Rick, Denise, and then anybody else who wants to say something last minute. So let's go. What did I say? I don't even remember what I said. David first, then Rick, then Denise.
Yeah, I don't have much.
Okay.
I just keep your eyes on some of the economic data because
eyes on the prize.
Yeah, as Trump might be having problems with Epstein or something like that, he's still waving the age-old his solution to everything. His silver bullet is tariffs, even though I think we're in store for.
Let's get back to the Gilded Age.
Well, inflation ticked up today. That was the other, big headline news today.
Right.
Inflation ticked up to where it's running now at an annual rate
Almost
20%.
Yeah.
And there's some, you can't really prove it, but there's some element to believe that the tariffs had something to do with that, because the tariffs will be inflationary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one comment to that is gasoline prices are lower than they've been in recent memory, including the Biden administration. Some of the last couple of years of it anyway, because what's going on in the Middle East is not having the effect that you would have thought it would have. Perhaps because Iran and Russia want U.S. production that is essentially stopping drilling. I asked Denise is still here, how Houston's economy is doing, because I don't think the drilling programs for this fracking oil are as robust as they used to be. So
Shaky, real shaky.
yeah. Drill baby drill is not going to get us out of it. It's my point.
All right, thanks, David. Okay, Rick, you're up.
Well, two things. Keep an eye on. There's maybe a farm worker strike in the offing. They are talking about it right now.
Wow.
Here in our county, and in Santa Barbara County, and maybe a couple other counties. And it's a short strike. It's not an open-ended strike. It's like a 3 or 4 day strike. The idea right now. So keep an eye on that. Depending where it is in the planting and harvesting cycle, that could really be damaging, or it could be not so damaging, you know. So I'm not quite sure where we're at. We kind of have a year-round growing season here, depending on the crop. So anyway, that's something to watch for. Now the other.
Hey, Rick, can I ask you a question? Wasn't there supposed to be some sort of nationwide resistant event on July 19th or something? I remember it.
Yeah, there's going to be another program. Yeah,
It's tomorrow.
And it's the John Lewis. It's basically to celebrate John Lewis.
Make good trouble. Make good trouble.
Yeah, make good trouble. So that's the theme.
Okay.
So it has not gotten nearly as much as the No Kings, as much publicity as No Kings, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people out there. The other thing, we're making the same mistake that we always make. We're letting the Republicans define candidates and define, I was reading about one, and all I heard is he is basically a socialist. Some of my friends call him communist.
Yeah.
He wants to, he wants to shut down all the grocery stores. This is the narrative that in the Midwest is absolutely believed, that he wants to shut down privately owned businesses and have government-owned grocery stores. So I started doing a little research. He wants to start 5 grocery stores in underserved areas where there are no grocery stores, using city-owned buildings. And we know that there's businesses. We know that there has been for years, and the big grocery store chains will not go into those areas. So when I read about it, I started doing research on city-owned grocery stores. You know who has city-owned grocery stores? Kansas.
State
Kansas has city-owned grocery stores. There's something called a Merc, and it's kind of like a co-op, and they keep prices down, and it serves a lot of customers that the big grocery stores don't serve. Florida has had city-owned grocery stores in rural areas. The biggest one kind of fell apart because they still could not compete profit-wise. They couldn't get the products cheap enough, and they couldn't find enough people. Running a grocery store is not for the faint of heart. It's a really difficult business. So he would need to, Mondani would need to find somebody that really knew that business. But using city-owned properties and lowering taxes for these stores is not a bad idea. He has said absolutely nothing about shutting down Whole Foods or CVS or Walmart. I don't know if it was Walmart in New York City, but Target and all those other stores. So, but we've let the GOP define it without actually telling the story. of what it really is. And we make this mistake over and over and over and over. And even I know a lot of Democrats who say, well, he wants to shut down grocery stores.
Rick, that was his only issue, he wouldn't have a problem because, you know.
I know. There's
Okay, so there's a lot of other things. Yeah, and by the way, if someone who worked in New York City government, right? I'm not telling you, the grocery store thing is not as crazy as people think it is, and I'm nowhere near as liberal as he is. But it's not a crazy idea in a food desert, okay?
Yeah.
The issue you have in New York City, okay, is this, and nobody's asked this question, which is, in a lot of these same areas, because of budgetary issues, you've been closing firehouses, you've been closing public hospitals, okay? Is the best use, okay, of the city's money to operate grocery stores when you when you can't even apparently operate a fire department or a public hospital, because a lot of people would argue those two things are more important than whether you have a convenient grocery store. I mean, if you had to choose, because government is effectively about choosing and prioritizing, but nobody's actually raised that issue. But I don't think the supermarket is the most controversial issue in that race.
No.
Go ahead.
Ken, what I'm talking about is the perception across the country. Because the perception across the country is not that New York doesn't have enough police or doesn't have enough fire departments. But when you say you're going to close grocery stores, that's what's making the news. The other issues on how New York government works is a whole other thing. What they are trying to do is tell a story about who this guy is. And we are not actually, I don't think he would be a great mayor because I don't think he has the experience to do that. But, we are letting the story be told in a way that's so far off, and not a serious conversation. And what you are talking about is serious conversation about how city governments are run, and that should be told. But you're not going to tell that in a meme. What you tell in a meme is, here's a socialist who wants the government to own all grocery stores. And that's what I'm talking about.
There you go. All right, thanks, Rick. Good topic, to be continued. All right, Denise, you get the caboose. You're up.
I do. Well, I want to shout out my sweet friend Royfield in the audience, and that's his PTR is when we got to meet in person. And
Who's this? I was wondering who that was. That is such a great picture. I love it.
And so my encouragement is whoever you can make sure you spend some actual FaceTime with some friends this week, that you actually connect. And if you can't connect that way, pick up the phone and at least do a Zoom. Royfield, you owe me a Zoom or a connection. But we're very lucky to have found each other and to find such interesting people in this environment, and just take it a step further and make it more real. Everybody benefit.
Yep, that's so true. Thank you so much, Denise. And it is so good to see Royfield. I consider Royfield my buddy, and at some point I'm going to be coming up to visit him, and he's going to come down and visit us in Porto. So to be continued. So we got through a Tuesday. It's 5:16 here in Ouagadougou, in Ouagadamil. And we will be back tomorrow, same time, same station. And take care of you all. And we'll be playing the song, so if there's any links down below in the chat room, feel free to take them and look at all the good stuff that we have there.
The older you want that one to happen, but you might not want the others to happen, or the other ones to happen, and that other one is the case. That's
after the forum, so which I can consider G-Force or having to use G-Forces in that to a certain extent. And there has to be a skill level into it as well. And there has to be rigorous training for the actual thing that you're doing that is using your body. Those, I think these things will calculate into what makes a sport for me, right? I don't think that, for me, racing is more of a skill that people can't, like, not your everyday person can't just be a good racer, right?